Hello and welcome back. So now that we have discussed the various forms of energy, let's go through them one more time, but this time let's talk about the pros and the cons of using each of these different types of energy. So first, let's start off with wood. So wood has been used for thousands of years as a source of energy. So it's pretty economical to harvest trees. It is a renewable resource, so we can plant more trees to take the place of the ones that we're using, and trees are relatively abundant. Okay, but the problems though are wood has a very low energy content as compared to coal. So if you have a pound of wood and then you compare that to a pound of coal, coal is going to have more energy content than what the wood is going to. When you burn wood, it's going to produce air pollution and it's going to produce carbon dioxide, which can cause a greenhouse effect. Then you also have the environmental problems of when you go and clear cut entire forests for their wood content, then that's going to destroy habitats, and also you have erosion problems associated with this. Okay, now what about coal? So coal is economical. It is very abundant. We have a lot of it. It has a medium energy content, so it does give off quite a bit of energy when you burn it. But it is non-renewable, so that means that we are using up our coal reserves, and eventually we will run out of coal. It does produce air pollution, and it does produce carbon dioxide when you burn it. And then also you have environmental problems of when you have like an open pit mining for coal, that destroys the ecosystem. And then if you try to mine coal underground, then what can happen is you can have cave-ins and things like that. Okay, what about oil? So oil is pretty economical to pump it out of the ground. It has a medium energy content and it's portable. So once we've taken our oil and we have turned it into gas, then that gas can be put into a gas tank, and that is a portable source of energy. But we are running out of oil and natural gas, and when we burn it, it does produce air pollution and carbon dioxide. And then also from an environmental standpoint, you can have oil spills, which can be very damaging. Hydroelectric power. So this is renewable. You just need to have water for it, and you need to have a dam. It has medium energy content, and it is non-polluting, so it doesn't produce any carbon emissions. Now, the bad news is that we have pretty much used all of our rivers that would be suitable for putting a dam up. And then also, it does interfere with the environment because it disrupts the natural environment that used to be there before you put the dam in. For example, salmon that need to swim upstream, they have a major problem when they encounter dams. Then also you have sedimentation. So what that means is that a river naturally carries sediment in it. When it slows down, when it enters into a lake behind a dam, it's going to lose energy and it's going to drop all of that sediment. And so the sediment will pile up behind the dam, and so eventually it will fill in all of the land behind that dam with sediment. Okay, let's continue here. What about nuclear fission? So nuclear fission has a high energy content. So 1 pound of uranium can produce a tremendous amount of energy. So it has a high energy content. Uranium is relatively abundant. We have a large amount of it. It does not produce carbon dioxide, so when you have a nuclear power plant, so it doesn't cause greenhouse gases. On the bad side, it does produce radioactive waste. And so far, what we've been doing with this waste is just basically storing it there at the nuclear sites in a big swimming pool. But in the future, we are thinking of taking this waste and transporting it to one central location and just leaving it there for 10,000 years or so for it to be radioactively decompose. Another problem with nuclear power is you must replace the nuclear power plant every 50 years or so, because the radiation from the nuclear power plant will damage concrete and it will damage steel, so that eventually all those parts have to be replaced. All right, what about nuclear fusion? So nuclear fusion is a high energy content. It produces no radioactivity, and it is unlimited in quantity. So we basically have an unlimited amount of water that we could use for the hydrogen for it. But the bad thing is, at this particular time, as of 2023, we do not have any nuclear fusion power plants, and so there are some engineering problems that are going to have to be overcome. And then you have to worry, though, that if you've got this nuclear plant that operates at 10,000 or 10 million degrees Kelvin, what would happen if they have an accident there? Well, the place would go up like a hydrogen bomb. So you have to take that into account. All right, what about solar power? So solar power, it doesn't produce any pollution, and we essentially have an unlimited amount of sunlight to work with. Now the problem, though, is it has low energy content. So that means that if you have a solar panel that is 1 meter by 1 meter, that can run a single light bulb. So that means that if you want to run all of the appliances in your house, you're going to have to essentially cover your entire roof with solar panels. And that can be done, but you do need a lot of area in order to be able to generate enough electricity to do anything with it. Okay, and then another thing is, well, what if it's cloudy? So if it's cloudy, solar panels will work, but they just don't produce as much electricity. What about at night? Well, no, they're not. So that means that for half of a day, you could be using your solar panels, but at night, you'd have to use them on batteries or something, or some other source of energy. Okay, what about wind? So wind does produce large amounts of electricity. So if you do have one of these windmills that has a blade that's about 100 meters long, so that's 1 football field, so that would be enough to generate enough electricity for about 100 houses. So they do generate a lot of electricity. They don't produce any pollution. We essentially have an unlimited amount of wind on the earth to work with. But some people think that they're an eyesore. So here in the Midwest, if you go up by Kansas City, you will see these wind farms where they have like 100 of these windmills going, and each one of them has a blade that's 100 meters long. And so some people just think that that's an eyesore. One solution would be to put your wind factory out in the middle of the ocean where nobody can see it. Okay, another thing is there is a limited number of places on Earth that are going to have continuous winds that would make these wind farms economical. So you have to be careful about where you're going to locate them. Okay, what about geothermal? So this produces a lot of energy. It is non-polluting, but the problems with this is there are limited places in the world where you're going to have heat close enough to the surface that you can drill down into it and tap that heat. So it's limited by the number of places where we could actually use this technology. Okay, what about biofuels? So biofuels, they do produce a lot of energy, and it is a renewable resource. So as long as we've got green stuff, we can convert that into biofuels. But it is going to take land to grow this organic material. It's also going to take a lot of water in order to grow this material. Then when you burn it, it's going to produce air pollution and carbon dioxide. What about tidal? So that can produce large amounts of energy. It's going to be non-polluting. It's going to be renewable. But the problem is there's a limited number of places on Earth where you would have the tides high enough to make it economical. And then it's really the same thing with the wave things. So wave energy can generate large amounts of energy. It's non-polluting and it's renewable, but there would be a limited number of places on Earth where you would have the waves high enough that would make this an economical alternative. All right, so let's take a break, and when we come back, we are going to now start to talk about mineral resources.